Hey guys, welcome back to the Development Tank. Claire's back, our head of projects, to talk about a project that had to pivot. Okay, so once you start a project, it doesn't mean that you have to stay on that path. You need to be aware if it does need to pivot, you do need to make that decision. So stick around. We're going to unpack that and the reasons why we had to change direction. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's get into it. Claire's back, head of projects here at Little Fish. Thanks for joining us again, Claire.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Now, like I said, this is a great example of not getting too deep in with the original plan. Don't just keep bouldering through, like you said earlier, signing checks. Just don't keep pushing on if maybe it's not the right path, and maybe the right path is over there now. So I think super important to get this example out to our amazing community that just because that was the plan to start with, the plan can change.
Absolutely. This has been a long project in the making because, like you said, we made a big pivot, and I personally am a lot more comfortable with that pivot and what we're doing now, knowing that we're on the right path.
Yeah, 100%. So our client bought this job a couple of years ago. There was a plan, due diligence, feasibility, the whole lot, like normal here. The plan's quite clear, but it's just amazing that things can just dial and tweak, and you move this and you move that, and over a long time you keep sort of making little changes and things evolve. There's macro things at play here. There's build costs. There's real estate resales. There's lots of different things happening that can maybe change your plan from the right plan to, hey, maybe there's a better plan over here.
Yeah, especially with a development like this that is a little bit bigger than your standard side by side. It can take quite a lot longer to get through that council and that design phase. So like you said, it's maybe it's been 12 months, maybe it's been 14, but from that original pathway and that trajectory, maybe things have changed a little bit.
Correct.
Outside of what you're doing.
And I think, like you say, these bigger type sites, you know, when things change, they can change in sort of bigger ways. You know, the economics are larger on a site like this. So whether you're talking build prices or resales, if these things are changing along this path, you know, they're changing in big swings as well when it's a bigger project. So,
and more important, stakes are higher, your output, more money. So it's almost more important to step up and have a look at what you're doing and are we still on the right path?
Yeah, correct. Couldn't agree more. So the project we're talking about is 11 to 13 Norman Street, Doncaster East. So a big sort of double block, if you like. So 11 and 13.
Yeah.
An original plan, you know, let's do 6 townhouses, you know, at the time, total sense, couple of freestanding ones at the front and 4 around the back, which obviously our due diligence and feasibility, you know, stacked up nicely. So you've got the plans here. So maybe we start showing people this is what we set out to achieve somewhat.
Yeah, let's do it. So this in front of us now is the original town planning set that we started with council. Yeah, so again, like you just said, we had 2 standalones here at the front, their own crossovers. We even got a double garage in. So these were almost going to be our hero, and our resales were higher on those than our 4 at the back.
Yes, yeah, they definitely were. And yeah, like you said, this is what we set out to do. A couple of big resales at the front, and 4 sort of cheaper resales at the back. And you know what? From a strategy perspective, I love the couple of different product as well. So when you got 6 townhouses for sale, having 2 different product at the front, hitting a certain price point and a certain marketplace, and then having 4 at the back, which would appeal to others from price points and size point of view, I think is a good approach.
And like you said, like at the time, this made so much sense. I think for site coverage, we ticked that, we ticked setbacks, we achieved 3 to 4 bedroom depending on which house. We had those featured one at the front. We ticked everything and knew that was going to hit the right target at the other end.
Yeah, correct. And when you look at these, you've got your two at the front that are standalone and got their own driveway. So essentially, they're their own homes. And then even the back four, you've got really only attached via garages, which is tick, tick, tick. And obviously a little bit of attachment down there between sort of units 4 and 5. Or 3 and 4, apologise. So it's, for me, there's a lot of, good, I guess, development practices being ticked here. So we're feeling pretty good about it. But I guess as we move along, the battles that you guys had with council, and I guess areas in the grey that they were leaning into and trying to roadblock us, I guess meant that you guys had to keep making changes and making these units even, a little bit inferior.
Yeah, exactly. We went through 2 RFIs in the end, which normally we just don't. We see one RFI, we tick it off and move forward. And like I said before, we ticked all the planning policies in terms of setbacks, site coverage, heights, all the black and white items, I guess. But overall, council were quite, I guess to put it bluntly, they were just not on board with this development. I mean, overall, it was neighbourhood character, it was the layout of the development, it was visual bulk, it was on-site amenity, I think was one of them. But there was a number of things, like I could list off, if we went through the refusal in the end, we could list off everything. But overall, they weren't on board and they weren't willing to give us a permit for this.
Yeah, correct. And I think the thing is, then we keep charging down the road. There's a lot of money invested by our client, and we're just trying to get a solution. So we're giving them a bit here, we're giving them a bit there, and we're still trying to obviously keep it feasible and viable. And I suppose throughout this process, we're seeing sort of macro influences. COVID's ran through this project, build prices have gone up. So a townhouse site like this with 6 of them on it, it becomes more expensive as well. So you've got some of these macro influences, and you've got council putting the squeeze on your product, which isn't helping your resales.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to that point of, we went through the RFI and we were giving them something, because you can't give them everything. Otherwise, all of a sudden, the whole project's not feasible. So if I quickly just jump to the developed plans, you can see here, we've cut back a little bit for this unit. We've created separation between these two. And again, didn't give them huge amounts, but gave them enough to tick off those, like landscaping, separation, the items that they were asking for. But it was very clear by the time we received the second RFI that 6 townhouses were not going to be approved by council.
Yeah, correct. And I think, like the 2 examples you mentioned there, no doubt there's a few more, but it's just them chipping away at this design, which a metre here and a metre there, you take that out of a finished townhouse, you walk into those dwellings, they are worth less. So it's important to note that as council just kept chipping away and we wanted to come to the party, wanted to give them something to appease them, because we do need a permit. So as we chipped away, it sort of chipped away at our resales, which super important that you have to protect. But then, like you said, as we kept chipping away, they kept holding firm on certain items. And like you said, yes, potentially leaning towards a 5 townhouse site, which a 5 townhouse site in this layout starts to get less viable, less feasible, and it wasn't going to be viable. So obviously, then we get to a point where, okay, we're pushing with these 6, council aren't supportive, VCAT gets on the table.
Yeah, exactly. So from here, like you said, I had the same gut feel or the same sense from council that it was 5, like drop 1 and maybe we'll start to talk. It wasn't considered that we would get 5, but that was sort of where we were going. We couldn't do that from a feasibility point of view. So from there, we received a notice of refusal. So it looks very similar to a planning permit, apart from up the top it says refusal. So at that point, and it's probably worth noting, until you get to sort of that point, we don't need to be readjusting and pivoting before then. Like 2 RFIs, it might take you a couple of extra months, but we still were happy with that path. I guess at that moment, would you agree that was when we said, what are our next steps here? Because if we want a permit for 6, we're going to VCAT.
Yeah, correct. And I think VCAT always brings that level of, the stakes start to get higher. Like you said, I think it was going to cost 15,000. Add in some expert witnesses, you get into 30, 40, and you've got the time factor as well. So maybe take 6-9 months to get in front of a member for them to adjudicate, but then also the uncertainty of what that brings. A member on that any given day might have you down at 5 as well, and you've wasted time and money getting the outcome that you didn't want anyway. So it definitely sort of brings things to a head and makes us challenge things in here anyway. So it was at that point when we looked at it and thought, hey, what's the other option here?
Is there another option?
Yeah. Is there another option? They're not always is. So I think, and that's when we got to work talking to agents, talking to local builders and operators in the area. And fortunately for us, there is another option, which you'll show us in a second. But essentially them saying to us that, hey, whilst you've been doing this, whilst you've been treading this path, a certain product in this area has been performing quite well, and that's more of a bigger type dwelling. So, maybe a 35 square home, brand new, that, immigration's been very aggressive over the last couple of years, and, very much so the Asian market are looking to get in and get into these big homes. So that was something that piqued our interest and thought, okay, well, that's something we haven't delivered really here. And that's the thing. Some people might say, oh, well, why didn't you know that at the start? There's no doubt that over the last 2 years, since COVID and that sort of thing, that immigration and the Asian market out there in Doncaster has got a lot noisier. And they're definitely coming in droves and spending good money. So, and that's something, and those comparable sales just weren't there. So,
Exactly.
So unless you've got the data, you're not, sentiment, you can't bank on sentiment. You need the resales and you need the comparables. And those comparables were happening whilst we were toiling away with our 6 site here. So I think, super, super fortunate for ourselves. And I think, hats off to the team for going out, doing the due diligence and sort of discovering that, hey, this could be an option. And then essentially it was back into the boardroom, the drawing board to go, hey, can we look at maybe 4 big townhouses, which if you want to talk us through, Claire, and sort of take us there, but pretty excited by the opportunity that presented ourselves, because this site now in hindsight really lends itself to this design.
Yeah, and I think we're fortunate, our town planner, who's great, they get a bit creative as well. They're not like, hey, next steps, we're going to VCAT, here we go. It's no one wants to go to VCAT. We don't want to go to VCAT. From memory, the VCAT hearing date was October this year. So I'm jumping ahead a bit, but we're at tender right now for this job.
Yeah.
So to save that time.
6-9 months that we lose, and it's uncertain.
And there's not always an alternate method, but at that point it is time to reevaluate. And our town planner was creative, agents, experts all helped us to go, maybe we can do something else.
Yeah, correct. And I think when I think about the experts team that we've assembled, they're all property developers as well.
Yeah.
So they get why we're doing it. This isn't just a tick box for them. They're not just pushing paper around. They're property developers. So when you surround yourself with those sorts of people, it can just be an off comment.
One conversation.
One conversation can then go, what about this? And suddenly you dive deeper on that. You're looking at resales for big townhouses. And obviously the beautiful thing with this side is we've got, I feel like it's 36 metres. I can't even see it. I'm having a guess. I think I'm right. It's 36 metres of frontage, which is out of control. So you got the double block. And then obviously we kept unpacking it. It was looking reasonably favourable. And then we've obviously got the 13 and 11. So 11 and 13 are your house numbers, which, do you want to talk us through that little process of actually getting those subdivided?
Yeah.
And getting the folio and the lots split down the middle to essentially turn it into 2 blocks of land?
So yeah, it was actually a really easy process. we had the 11, we had the 13. They were currently sitting under a parent title. It was a matter of going to our solicitor, who did all the work in the background, but just went to the titles office and separated those two.
Yeah, 100% separated the lot. So suddenly then we've got two, which they sort of were two, but when someone owns them and they're selling them and transacting them as one, like you said, there's a parent title over them. So it was just a good little, like, this path looked clear to us, but this was just a good little win, I suppose, and just something that we're like, hey, we really think this is the right path now, because obviously then we dodge open space contribution, because essentially we've got two developments.
Well, so I think people are going to be asking this. Let's quickly jump into what we changed or pivoted to.
Yes.
So, like we're alluding to, or you're suggesting, it was two side-by-sides on their own titles.
Yes.
But probably what everyone's questioning is that, are we starting town planning again? Have we got two sets of plans? How are we open space contribution? How are we avoiding that? Yes, obviously we've got the two titles separately, but it's still one application to council. So as a whole, we're still doing 4 townhouses. Yeah. And I think that's a really important part, because that essentially council were on board with this. So our town planner sat down with council's town planner and said, would you consider this? And for them, they were much happier with this. We kept a bit more landscaping, much bigger backyards. They were happier from a streetscape. Even though previously they said they didn't want the 3 crossovers, they were happy with these crossovers just based on what we were producing. And it became a negotiation that this will still be one permit, but there will be no open space. Yeah,
I think great point. And essentially this is the hustle between booking a date at VCAT and us going, hey, we think there's a pivot here. But like you said, not at all costs. Yeah. So, hey, how do we obviously give council something they preferred, by the sounds of it? Like you said, there's a bit of there's a bit of contradiction going on in there, but the streetscape's definitely a lot bulkier than what we proposed in our 6 townhouse development. But essentially our planner and Littlefish driving our planner to sort of say to them, hey, this is what we're going to do. Are you happy with it? But we're going to split the developments. There's going to be no open space contribution, and it can't be. It's a real fact that council love their open space contribution, and they grab hold of it by, and on a site like this worth circa 3 mil, 5% of that's nearly $150,000. So that's what they've foregone to go down this path. But obviously they were happier with it overall. But they don't let go of that sort of lightly. So just a great, great hustle during that period.
I remember saying to our town planner that this is great, like we're going to avoid VCAT, but we've got a lot of soft costs that we've paid for. So this won't work unless open space disappears. So, and that's, I guess I just wanted, it's not as easy as we're saying. Like, it sounds really easy. We just pivoted and here we are with a great result, or heading into a great result. But there is a lot of what you're saying, like hustle and negotiation and being surrounded, like you said, around the right people who do develop themselves. But a great outcome.
Yeah, great outcome. And that's the thing. We haven't got the feasibilities here. Guru Gav isn't with us, but essentially a feaso that was starting to struggle simply because of build price have gone up so aggressively, and that style of dwelling in that 6 townhouse site hadn't really chased it down that hard. So it was definitely getting squishy. And the uncertainty of VCAT. What do you want to go to VCAT, waste 6-9 months, $40,000, $50,000, and end up with maybe 5 townhouses and end up in a bit of a spot? I think going to this, just round numbers, I suppose, this feaso has got back into a place where it's a feasible project that we would do all day, every day. So just simply because of these nice big dwellings, no common property, all land on title, double garages. You can see the plans there. Like, these properties don't want for anything. So they tick all the boxes. And in that area of Melbourne, we see these be really, really strong results. And like you said, we're at build tender at the moment. Build will probably start in a couple of months, 2 to 3 months potentially. And then obviously be sold in 12 months. So hopefully coming into a better marketplace as well.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is only going to see them be stronger. So just a good lesson out there that, and you know, this one obviously another avenue presented itself. So, you know, we don't want to take too much credit, but it's just important to look up and like you said earlier, make sure you get the macro view of things and make sure you're still heading in the right direction, because for you guys playing along at home, you can get stuck going down that path, and you can get stuck just bowling through these walls, and not sort of just making sure that are you still on the right path? Are you still on the right ladder, as they say? So just make sure you get that macro view from time to time to make sure you're still comfortable with the direction.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If it's taking a little bit longer and things are changing, it's even more important to have a look. I think with this development, obviously the resales helped us a lot, or that change of resales. And like you just said, the resales for, I guess, the 6 probably hadn't increased as much as the big family home in Doncaster East.
Spot on.
But construction costs, all the same, were still going up. So that buffer, or I guess that return, was a lot more appealing when you put the two feasibilities together because of the change of the market.
Yeah, correct, 100%. And that's just being diligent and doing the work and playing around with the numbers, doing the feasibility. Don't assume that things are as they were, you know. Make sure you keep a finger on the pulse of your resales, because like we said, those comparables simply weren't there, you know, when we started out.
And these are, so overall, we've got about an extra 30 squares of real estate from our first 6 to the 4, and it's still going to be a great outcome, or a more profitable outcome. The build cost will be a little bit more, but not sheep stations. Like, we've been through it. We're going to tender now, but we're pretty confident. But the product itself, like double garages to three out of the 4, 5 bedrooms, master downstairs, covered al fresco. They have everything. So I think it's so great that this market is after this product.
Yeah, correct, 100%. And it goes to show that, you know, keeping in touch with your numbers and your resales, but then letting your FISO do the work, you know, is, you know, I guess super important.
I prefer this type of development, creating those, I guess now, the new Australian family home. This is what I like doing. So I'm really keen for this one to go through. Obviously, whatever makes the money makes sense, right? But this is definitely my preferred type of development.
Yeah, I think this is more core to what we do in here at Little Fish. Yeah, super happy with it. Super happy with the outcome. More land on titles for everyone. Like, all those sorts of things just stack up in here. You know, minimising common property, owner's corp, public liability insurance, all those sorts of things. This type of development is more core to what we do. So great outcome. Like you said, we're in the build tender stage at the moment. Be rapt to circle back and see these, you know, how they're tracking. It's going to be a kick-ass development site.
Really cool. Let's quickly look at facades before we move on.
Yeah, they look fantastic.
So again, we are taking up a lot of the street, which you'll see here, but essentially this is what council want, or if anything, this is what they're moving towards, because they've made that very clear.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely a smart-looking development. Keen to see it get underway, and yeah, you know, sneaky pivot there, a bit of hustle to get it right, but you know, without that awareness, you know, someone else could be heading towards a VCAT meeting with a 6 townhouse site that doesn't make sense. And the thing is, Nathan and I talk about this all the time. It's they head towards it, they get the permit, they come out of VCAT, and they think, I've got a permit, you know, surely it's worth something. Not always, you know, not always. So you definitely got to have the whole strategy in mind. And permits just don't always equal profit. So it's the right permit. So yeah, these look really good.
Yeah, I'm excited about them. We still wouldn't have a permit or an outcome right now, and we're about to have a build contract.
Yeah. So yeah, great outcome for the client, and well done, and yeah, timely pivot.
Yeah, it's a learning curve, been a long process, but great outcome. Really, really good outcome. Everyone was so stoked when we got that permit to avoid VCAT and the extra fees and the unknowns. It was a really good pivot.
Yeah, well done. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
See you, Peter. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Anyone that's going to get value out of that, once you get along the path, go for it. But if you're feeling like you're on the wrong path, make sure you pop your head up, have a look what's going on, and is there an alternative option? Happy developing.